Hey guys, the power went out at work. The power went out at work. I'm taking a shift at pitch black. Hey guys, it's really fucking scary. Hey guys, the power went out at work. The power went out at work. I'm taking a shift at pitch black. Hey guys. Hey guys, the power went out at work. The power went out at work. I'm taking a shift at pitch black. Hey guys, it's really fucking scary.
Whoa! Hello, internet friends. I'm Ryan. This is After Dark. Super excited about this one. This is one that been working on for a while, and we get to talk to someone who is a hero of mine, not just as one who plays guitar, but I used to work in the pedal industry, and I would consider this gentleman to be a legend for sure. So I'm really excited about this tonight. But we also have a semi-regular, and that is our friend Benny. Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm doing good, dude. Things are great. I don't know. My kid goes back to school tomorrow. Things are great.
Your kids aren't back to school yet?
No, it's Minnesota. We go late.
Minnesota, what the hell are you doing? All right.
I don't know. Like in Minnesota, like we feel like we need to like just soak up all of that summer that we possibly can.
I understand. I remember well.
Yeah, that's right. You're from here. Forget that. What were we talking about before? Oh, the Fretboard Summit. That was good for you. You enjoyed the Fretboard Summit. I heard you were hobbling around.
Yes, I had a cane. I was on oxycodone. I was having conversations with people, just kind of glassy-eyed and making friends.
Yeah, making lots of friends. I'm sure.
Lots of friends. Talking. My social battery was thoroughly exhausted, and sales were up 100%. So I sold one guitar. So.
That's
it was
okay.
great. It was a great weekend.
Was it the Bean, the acoustic, like that one?
Yes, the Peanut.
Peanut. That's right.
Bean. Whatever peanut. Food product you want to choose. Sure.
Right. Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
That was it. I sold that one. And
the Pinto.
Yeah. Ooh. All
right. Well,
go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think you and I are probably less interesting than Howard. So we should probably. Is that a sleeveless shirt?
No, it's just real high. I accidentally cut him real high.
Shirts and shorts.
Like it's a 1/4 sleeve.
Wow. All right. Let me see. He's back up. He's ready to go. Here we go. I'd like to introduce Howard Gee. Hello, my friend.
Hello.
Oh,
this is Miles.
Is Miles the new one, or is that the older one?
Yeah, he's a year and a couple months old.
Yeah. So you're legit a cat person then?
I became so once I got my first cat. 2020.
Yeah.
I was not a cat person up to that. I was allergic to cats.
So how did you overcome being allergic to cats?
Well, I was allergic to cats before, like, be dating a girlfriend, go over to her house, like, oh, this is not gonna work out good. You got 2 cats. They'd be like, sinuses. And then somewhere along the line, I guess I got over it and got my first cat. And yeah.
Really?
On Instagram, the question is Miles with a Y or Miles with an I?
Miles like in Miles Davis.
Miles Davis.
And his sister, which is around, is Polly, after Polly Jean Harvey, PJ Harvey.
Oh, yeah. So. Nice.
I kind of reversed and engineered it. I picked the names and I'm like, well, that works because that's Miles Davis and PJ Harvey. I like that,
We had, so we've had 1, 2, 3, 4. We've had a number of pugs at this point. And the first two were Ringo and Starkey.
Nice.
Yeah. And then we got Leo, who is still with us now. And so he was named after Mr. Fender. And then I let my kid and wife name our puppy that we just got, and they named him.
Is he named after someone?
He is.
And can we guess?
Boy, that'd be wild because so his name is Gary. How Benny, if you were to guess,
well,
if you were like, if it were me, you'd be like Gary Newman.
Yes, that's exactly what I would say. But I'm going to say they named him after Gary Sinise.
Oh no, that would be weird. It'd be weird. That'd be weird if my 8-year-old kid was like Gary Sinise.
Hey, could be, whatever. Go ahead.
Here we go, Mr. Silktone. How are you doing?
What's up?
How are you?
Oh, it's been a day.
You have had a day.
Yeah.
We talked on the phone. You had a day. This is Howard.
How's it going, Howard?
Hey, man.
This is Charles.
Got an extra beer. I didn't bring one.
Oh man, yeah. That's why I was late. I had to run up to the store.
Good call.
Yeah.
So Betty, he was named after Gary. Gary is the snail pet of SpongeBob. Incidentally, is a cat. Like it's a snail. But like anytime that we've taken him out, like in public, like to the dog park or something like that, and I'm like, Gary, they're like, his name is Gary. I'm like, yeah, like they're like it's fucking perfect. I'm like, I know,
perfect.
Imagine that. Like once I take myself out of the picture, my family just does something good.
Just nails it. Yeah.
Howard, my goodness. I was telling you before the show. I used to, obviously I watched gear demos for a long time before I ever made a single one. And I used to watch a lot of yours. And one of the things that I have found really, really hard to replicate is that I felt like I knew you like all the way through all of I felt like you and I were pals. And
we are now.
We are now. And you had that great transparency about you. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that like you design stuff that you like and you design stuff that you use. And that's like we were talking about the Talisman. I played through a Marshall JMP. I couldn't find a reverb to save my life that would work. And then the Talisman came up and through you, and like you said you designed that because you wanted a reverb for a Marshall. It's like that's one of the kind of beautiful things I think about how you work. It's like you see an issue in your own setup and you find a solution for it. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, I think part of it though is, well, number one, you gotta listen to Ringo Starr, act naturally. All you gotta do is act naturally. Second, I would say, because I'm the designer showing my own stuff, it's a different.
You're showing your baby. Yeah.
It's a different delivery than if, maybe what you do. If we give you our pedal and you're trying to come up with your own narrative for it, or you're trying to pass on some of the story of it, and it's a different, just by definition, right?
Well, then, the moment when we finally met was at NAMM. I don't even know what year.
Would have been a while ago because
it was a while ago. And you guys had rented a house, and Steph invited us over. And I remember you were walking around this party or this hangout, and you had like the prototype of the Belle Epoque Deluxe in your hand.
Okay, so that was the last NAMM before things changed.
And I remember you had the back off of the back plate was off, and I remember like talking to you about it as if I knew what the fuck you were talking about. And you gave me the benefit of the doubt, and you talked to me like I was a pedal designer who knew what you were talking about. And I thank you so much for that.
I vaguely remember that, and I was probably because we, had this hot winter of developing the prototype and then taking naps. So you're just like constantly elevator pitching, right? You're just like,
Yeah.
we gotta like check this out, dude. Here, blah 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 blah, 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 right? So you just can't stop because it's hot in your brain,
Yeah,
Right? You know that, right, Charles? It's like
Oh yeah, it's
when
crazy.
you first finish it, right? You want to. Do you know why I put the 100K resistor in there instead of the 150? Let me tell you, right?
Right. Yeah. It's you get in like design mode, and then once you're done with it, you're still stuck there. So, but you're done designing, so you want to get it out any way you can. So you want to talk to anyone who will listen about it.
Well,
And
it's
then-
hot. Like if you record a song, you just want everyone to hear it.
Right. Yeah. And then have you done those like pedal expo events and have you ever been behind a booth like explaining your stuff or pitching your stuff to the public?
Well, just like 6 or 7 NAMs.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's big. I'm doing NAM for the first time, and that is exhausting. And it's you doing the same pitch over and over and over and over. Everyone that walks up, it's like, oh my god, you get into a groove, but it's like, whoa.
It's brutal, and I haven't been to one since January 2017.
Okay.
I know that we've kind of moved now to the headphone booth type of world.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing the Benson Fest up here in Portland.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Me too.
That's great.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, you can.
Hell yeah.
You can hand me that beer at that point.
I was just gonna say I'll bring you the beer then.
But so not only is it exhausting, but you're in this booth and it's loud, and there's people talking, and there's just a din going.
Your feet.
And if I would have known before, I would have got it out. But I still have some volume citations that I'm proud of.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
You got the guy in the tucked in shirt
Yeah.
walking around with the little thing.
The little SPL
So
meter.
one guy, we became buddies. Like the second NAM, he saw me and he just sound police. And I think the second year, maybe it was, oh, here comes my buddy, the sound police guy again. And I see him coming. He's got his meter out. And so I start playing Breaking the Wall as loud as I can through whatever pedal.
Hell yeah.
And he actually came up and he recognized the song and he cracked up and he just kept walking. He's like, all right, I can't.
Yeah.
I've thought about that, and it, I worked in distribution, so like we had like a whole row of pedal companies, and that had booths, and then we would just kind of work that row, right? And and I hated the sound police, but then like all you got to do is walk into the drum section, and you realize why the sound police are actually kind of necessary. I mean, like, could you imagine if there weren't sound police? Like, I mean,
no, I get it, but it's at the same time you're trying to show off your stuff,
right?
I kind of design my stuff to really project.
Yeah,
and it's like you got to turn down. Like I got a 15-watt Princeton here. It's on like 2, which is basically 1.
Right.
And I'm barely playing, but these circuits are just pushing. They're cutting through the mix, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's actually like a good sign. It's like, hey, you could use that in your marketing, right? It's like it'll cut through the NAM din mix.
Yeah.
We had when me and the Sife dudes and Benny, we were at Fretboard Summit this last weekend, and our room was very tucked away from like the main. There was like the main electric guitar floor where you walk off the elevator and it's like right there, and then we were back in the pedal and amp room, like way in the back. So we would have Philippe from Caroline come by every day and just shred the loudest like 80s metal riffs he could just to let people know we were there. And that like you said, cutting through the mix, it helps sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially when they have those booths with like 4 bass players jamming.
Yeah.
We always jokes like the only time they have a gig is at NAM because who else is going to hire 4 bass players slapping?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of this, Howard, speaks to the fact that you've been around for a long time, and you've been doing this for a long time.
Too long.
Well, you want to tell us a little bit about how you got into this business and this really unhealthy way of living?
Once upon a time. Yeah, actually. So first, I never it wasn't like my aspiration or dream or like, oh man, I want to make pedals or I'm curious about pedals. In fact, I was a guitar player and I owned pedals, but I knew so little about electronics that if the battery snap broke, I'd be like, oh shit, I guess I gotta throw it away or something. I don't know what to do with it. Maybe I should call someone. I don't know what to do. And
It's hard to imagine you. It's hard to imagine you in that position.
That's the level. That's the level I was at. I mean, I used to do like corporate IT work, computer programming and stuff. So I guess I have a systems sort of thinking. And then after that, I recorded bands just when in the early 2000s when everyone's getting their Pro Tools Digio 01 setups, you know.
Oh yeah.
And I got all this stuff, and I started recording local bands, and that didn't turn out to be too financially lucrative, right? It's like, hey, can you record our CD for $400? We got $400. Like, come on, dude. It's like, look, we promise no overdubs.
Can you mix it?
One take.
Can you mix it too? Can you mix it too?
Oh yeah, mix it, master, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I got to a point where like, oh man, I ran myself into the ground here and got to find some work. And I was hanging out on forums a lot back in the glory day of forums, Harmony Central.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't even know there were forums that talked about gear or music and stuff. Like, I was actually looking for jobs, you know, submitting my resume. And then I'm like, oh, what's this? And so between that, I'd be like on these forums. And it was through that community that, you know, this local guy with a local pedal basement company PM'd me one day. And it's like, hey, I heard you need some work. I could use a little bit of help. And from both sides, it was kind of intended like stopgap, you know.
Is that right? Nick sent you a message on Harmony Central?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, I didn't know the first thing about making pills or anything, but I just needed some work to tide me over, right? And
yeah,
so I could get a real gig. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it for a bit, you know, and show up. And we're in this little basement in a house in Portland. And, you know, it's old school. So like putting water slide decals and drill pressing, you know, and actually back then it was like the boards were hand etched. He would get the etching ferric stuff and he would make his own boards and we'd get piles of them and then like have to drill out the trace holes, right? Or the leads, you know.
Fuck that.
So that actually informs you know, the Kittycaster builder because I didn't know anything. I just showed up and like, what can how do you want me to help you? You know, put me to work. It's like, here, do these water slides. And I was intimidated. It's like, oh, what if I fuck up and it's crooked? Then I ruin your pedal. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And the drill press and I was just like soldering wires. Like, why does the orange wire go here? Just solder it there. You know, it's like, okay.
It's funny how that happens. Like everyone I've hired to build pedals, they've never built a pedal before. Most of them have no electronic experience whatsoever. But and I'm not doing it that, you know, handmade or anything. I have a PCB and it's all through hole, but you know, read the number and then get the number out of the bin and put it in. But even even like here, put this number here in the board. That I tell them on day one, and their heads they're just like, I don't know if you think I have more experience than I do or what, but I don't know about this. I'm like, you'll be fine. Just put it in the hole. You'll be all right.
Just Charles, put it in the hole and you'll be all right. That's
you'll be all right. If it fucks up, I'll hear it. It's all good.
Charles,
do you have in the hole.
Do you have a solder bath, Charles?
Yeah.
So they don't even have to solder.
Nope.
But the hard thing with the builds we did was like, because you had all these wires, like one pedal had 120 individual wires.
Yeah.
From the foot switch to the board to other toggle switches and pots and whatnot. It was 120. and you had to route each one manually, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
this one goes here, and then you would like tie them off and shrink wrap that bundle.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it looked like some kind of communications
Right.
sort of thing. And then we kind of it evolved to more the kind of modern sort of format.
Streamlined. Yeah.
Yeah, and when we started Kittycaster, I knew all that and had gone through all those build styles and knew what I liked about it and what I didn't like about it. I didn't
Yeah.
like much about it at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And so came up with this build style. And we could look at it later.
Yeah, that's
but,
cool.
where it's like it sounds great and it's easy to work with.
Yeah.
And
That's the key. Easy to work with. Like mine is all on one board. It's all integrated on one board. I don't want anyone to have to solder any wires. It works the best, and they're all great at it now. After they do it for like a couple hours, they're like, "This is a breeze." They knock it out of the park. But it's just funny seeing people on that day one, like you said, like, "Whoa, what if I mess up your pedal?" I don't know. Like, there's so much responsibility, I guess.
And I appreciate the fuzz, the fuzz guys that do the hand builds with the
Yeah, that's
wires
awesome.
and-
It's really cool.
and you got the coax going to the inputs and all that stuff, but that wasn't what I wanted to do. And,
Yeah.
I
charge-
we have
I-
a build that's kind of
Yeah,
like
let's
this,
take a look at that. Charles is gonna want to look at that.
and so
Yeah, that's badass. That's clean.
and so you got 9mm pots, and
That's cool.
so you can get to it because the side's open, right?
Yeah, I love the bent metal enclosure. Your enclosures look great.
Yeah, that was just kind of what I wanted to do. Actually, I can tell that if we have time. But it's like I actually brought on my
nothing
show.
but-
I got my show and tell stuff here. It's like
Sweet.
Yeah.
how this came to be. This or subtitle to be what did you
Dig
do?
in, dude. I want to hear it.
What did you do during COVID? This is what
Yeah,
I did.
yeah.
Yeah. I do want to finish this thought. So or this train that we were on before. So you get
Oh yeah,
a job.
I still don't know how to read a schematic at this point in the story, right?
you get
Hold on.
a job.
Hold on. For those of us who don't know the history, who did you get? Who is this person you got a job with?
You can say it, Ryan. I don't want to say it.
So it's that was Nick, and Nick ran a company called Cadlin Bread.
Oh, okay, I've heard that name.
And Nick is no longer with us, and I imagine we'll get to that part of the story. But for kind of my generation of getting into pedals, Nick had already passed, and Howard was kind of the guy. So yeah, so you go from solder jockey to having some questions, and then you kind of start doing it.
Well, yeah.
Solder jockey.
I was a solder jockey. Yeah, solder monkey, I think is what we called it. Solder
yeah.
monkey. Yeah, so I was just building, and as far as like me starting to do circuits, I did that on my own, like, and it wasn't even through Nick, or it wasn't even like, hey, you want to learn? It's like that never came up. It was just like,
It's amazing that you do it all day, and then you're like, you get home, and you're like, I'm gonna do more.
well, see, what I did all day was just build, and it was kind of, you just build, and you build your 20 pedals or your 10 or whatever you do, and then you're just done, right? So in some ways, that's actually nice, because when you're building or when you're doing what I'm doing now, it's like, and you probably can relate, both of you guys, Ben and Charles, and you too, probably, right? Nothing's ever done.
No.
Everything's always like, we got, okay, now it's got to go into production. Now I got to find parts. Now we got to like run a sale. Now we got to figure out how to, all the business stuff of it.
and then start it all over.
Yeah, so it's just like a treadmill of that. But kind of the evolution was, though. So Nick would be doing most of all of the breadboarding and conceptualization and all that stuff, and I didn't have anything to do with that. But at some point he goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" "I'm drilling cases like you want me to do." It's like, wasn't that kind of boring? Like, I fucking hate it, dude. It's like,
Yeah.
well, you want to grab a guitar and come over here? It's like, like, what do you want me to do? It's like, so he's got the breadboard out, and he's like, I'm playing through his breadboard, and so we just did A, B. Okay, would you like A better or B better? And I didn't know what he was doing, but now I realize he's changing a cap or a resistor, or doing some whatever. I'm like, A doesn't sound good. B sounds good, but it's kind of flubby. Okay, so we just A B'd our way to a product.
Yeah, that's the fun stuff.
And so some of the, I don't know, 2009, maybe 2008, 2009 era would be sort of developed that way, where I'm like playing the guitar and just sort of guiding through. And he kind of trusted my judgment, as a guitarist or whatever. I was like, sometimes, you get like A, B, do that again. It's like, that's pretty close,
Yeah.
Of course, now knowing what I know, it's like, because I didn't know what he was doing. Because if he did it to me now, I'd be like, A or B. I was like, why are you fucking with the front stage? The EQ, we should be shaping at the backstage here.
Yeah.
If you take the treble off from the front stage, then you'll never get it back. We should do that to end, or whatever kind of a thing. Or maybe you just change the bias point, and it'll just sound smoother. Right?
See, and this goes back to this point that I make all the time about whatever you're designing, whether it's you're designing pedals or amps or guitars or whatever. I liken it to like a mixing engineer, right? Like for the mixing engineer, what you're actually hiring is you're hiring somebody's ears, like you're not hiring their gear, they're not hiring their whatever, you're hiring their ears, and that's what you want. And I found that that's like the pedal designers and builders who I tend to like it's what I like is their ears. And so I feel like that's kind of what you just described there, was like,
I think it's like ears and fingers because it's a feel thing.
Yeah.
And whenever people say, "Oh, are you an engineer?" I always say no, because that'd be doing a disservice to actual engineers.
Right.
It's not really done that way. I just, it's like guitar, bong hit, breadboard, three essential ingredients, and
Hell yeah.
And you just sort of, and it's just like a mix in that way, right? You put up a mix and like the snare drum and this and that, and then you're like, that sounds pretty good. Next day you listen to it, it's like, what the fuck was I thinking? It's like the vocals are just whack.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. I don't smoke much, but I'll have gummies sometimes, and when I'm almost done with the design, I'll eat a gummy, and I'll play it, and I'll be like, this sounds fucking awful. Like, what the hell? And then I'll go back and redesign it the next day, and it's completely different.
What's weird, and you guys know this, you three know this, like when I do like the in the mix thing, like, and this is also true for like commercial work and for session work, like the mix isn't done until I've done it stoned. Right. And then once I've done it stoned, then it's done.
Yeah, it's not random. There's like an intent. Well, to me, it's like you got intention and then you have perception.
Right.
And that's why I don't call it engineering, because engineering to me is more like quantitative in some ways,
Right.
My stereotype of it. And when you go, okay, intention and perception, so you might have intention, I want to really touch sensitive fuzz, this or that, but where's your perception to know that? And it's like, you can't just decide on a given day, right? Because you have to do it over time, because today you have bad ear day, tomorrow you're tired, next day you got something in your mind, and today you got different guitar out.
Dude, that's my whole day today. That's my whole day today. I was voicing my a new pedal that's coming out, and it's almost done. I just have to make a couple tweaks, and I went to finalize it today, right after I got slapped with like $1,000 unexpected tax bill, and I got my girlfriend got rear-ended, and we have to deal with all this shit. So I'm like, man, I can't voice this today. Everything's gonna sound like shit to me.
Does it
Sorry to
work?
hear about your day. That's
That's fine.
Does it work? Does it work like so? In my, and I have no experience with building pedals. Actually, Charles, when I come out to LA, it'd be really funny if I built a pedal with you. That would be hilarious. But not
maybe we'll fly. Maybe fly to SAC, and then we'll figure it out. Yeah.
All right. But I know mixing, and I know like when you can get so deep into a mix that you like, and you're tweaking into like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, right? And you get up the next morning, and you're like, this sounds like crap. Like it was so much better at 3:00 in the afternoon when, you know, I was doing. Do you guys run into that with designing pedals where it's like you just get way into your own heads, or no?
Well, that's why, like I was saying, I can only make a decision. Is it done? You know, and what I always tell everyone that knows me on the team and everything's like, when is it done, Howard? It's like when it stops pissing me off.
Yeah.
But you don't know on a given day because
true.
like stuff Charles is saying, you know, like your headspace that day, and you use the altered state if you imbibe in whatever to shift your perception so that you get a different read on things, right? So it's not like you're always baked, you know, like or I'm always baked.
Right.
Like, okay, I've gone as far as I could down this road. Let's put different lens on.
Sure.
See where we are, and you second guess yourself, you know, and
Totally.
and your insecurities come out like, I don't know, this thing probably, I'm going to sell this thing. I was like, what the fuck? This thing sucks.
Yeah. It all becomes a blur at some point. Do you have another builder or helper with you that helps you or anything, or is it just you?
No, our team is like 4 people.
4 people, rad.
Plus an artist.
So do you have the person now that you used to be where you're like, hey, come check this out, A or B? Like,
no, actually, I don't.
You don't do that.
I don't have that person really around.
Okay.
And A, and then B, I've kind of, you know, because I did it so long, I sort of started getting confidence in my decisions.
Yeah, for sure.
Because what I used to do a lot, because we could see what we're like the internet experts. I don't know I don't pay attention to the internet experts. I'm not even really online in any of those spaces these days. But the internet experts would say things like, it doesn't matter what kind of capacitor you use; they all sound the same. If it sound different, it's because their tolerance, like 0.1. And I found that not to be true at all. And then what I would do is like I'd have breadboard experiments that I'd have someone, play and like, all right, I'm going to see if I'm tripping or if there's something here. It's like, okay, A or B, and I'll tell them like they're both 0.047 caps.
Right.
One's a Panasonic and one's a blah blah blah. And then I go, okay, you establish that they think it's different. And then the second thing you do is like, how would you describe it in your own words? And they go, oh, well, this one's more chewy.
Yeah.
This one's just kind of brittle on top. And I'm like, okay, different words than I would use, but they're perceiving the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so over time, you start getting a little bit of confidence,
Totally.
In that kind of perception thing.
That's what I was going to say. I have a guy, same kind of thing. Like he loves pedals. He's my primary amp builder right now, and I'll voice stuff, and it gets to a point where I'm like, God, I'm so burnt out on like A or B. Hey, come here, what do you think? And sometimes I'm like, okay, cool, good perception, and then other times I'm like, fuck off, you don't know what you're talking about. You're wrong. So, but it still helps me get to the answer I wanted. Like, either I'm defending the choice I knew I should make, or it opens up.
Right.
Benny, does that resonate to guitar design at all? Because I imagine like you can only cut one neck pocket, right? You know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, of course there are areas. I mean, if you're talking about like having that person that you can bounce things off of, yes. I mean, like working in the Seric shop for so long when I was doing my own shit or doing the Seric shit, it was like, is this color okay? I mean, did I just make it something ugly? And if depending on how much coffee I had that day, or like if I was hungry or whatever, their answer would be like what Charles said. It's like, you know what, you're fucking wrong. So my choice is right, or like, oh, maybe you're right, and it's all very fluid.
I've been lucky. I haven't had anyone with a perception test contradict what I was thinking. Like, I really like this, whatever A is better than B, but I'm going to see what this person says without, front loading it.
But and that kind of goes back to this idea of like, you're not an engineer and you're like really straightforward about that. Like, like I feel like if you would have asked Kurt Cobain about music theory, he would have been like, I just play what sounds good to me, and I'm just going to kind of shed that stuff because I don't care. I'm just playing the thing that sounds good to me. And, like rather than getting caught up in the, mathematical equations and all of that kind of shit, like you just kind of do the thing that sounds good to you, right?
Yeah. And so to be, to qualify, it's not that we aren't doing engineering, because it's not like I don't know about I probably know as much electronics theory as I know music theory, enough to
be dangerous.
Explain things, but you try not to be that. That's not leading the cart, right? What's leading it is your perception, and then you figure out what to make it happen, right?
That's a really great analogy too. Like you use the phrase explaining things. I use electronic engineering stuff to explain what it is I'm doing. I use music theory to explain what it is that I like.
Right. Are you gonna write a song just like I'm gonna do a G minor seventh to C sharp major and it's gonna be great, and because of the whatever insert music theory thing,
I went to music school. You would be surprised at how many people write purely off of just whatever music theory thing that they have, and they're the ones that kind of fail or become dream
It's
theater.
cool to reverse engineer it though. Like I saw Rick Beato reverse engineer some Nirvana stuff. Like, oh, that's why that's so cool.
Exactly.
Using the minor six on I can't remember, but he's doing some interesting harmonization intuitively.
Yeah.
And I think with doing the pedal circuits, sometimes that works too, right? You're kind of like just messing around, and then you kind of look at it, it's like, why is that doing this now, right?
Yeah. So where we are in the timeline, you part ways with Cadlin Bread, and COVID happens, right? And
I guess I didn't finish the story of how I became a designer yet.
Yeah, okay, keep going.
Yeah. So I had a buddy who I knew from the forums, and he lived around here, and we used to hang out a lot. And he goes, "Hey, dude, I'm moving back to Wisconsin pretty soon, and remember that breadboard I bought on Craigslist?" I'm like, "Yeah, I remember that. You posted it on the forum." I'm like, "Yeah, I never did anything with it. Maybe you could do more with it than me." And he brought it out and handed it to me. I'm like, "I don't want this thing. Just throw it away. Like, I'm not a breadboarder." And then I go, "Oh, wait. All right, I'll take it. I'll put it on the shelf for a while, and then in 2 months, I'll throw it away." And so I took this breadboard home. Someone had a rig with it with a little rail with pots on it, and I still have it. But put it on the shelf, and then 2 or 3 months went by, and it was like, the proverbial Saturday rainy winter day, you wake up and you're like, maybe probably listening to Hendrix that day going, "Man, that fuzz face sound is just like, what's going on with that? That, how do you," and then I'm like, it's got 2 transistors, here's a schematic, maybe. So I get the breadboard out, and I had a few parts laying around, and it took me all afternoon to breadboard a fuzz face. And, how many parts? 10?
Not many.
9?
So like 8 or something, yeah.
For a stock fuzz face,
Yeah.
And it took me all afternoon. I'm like, and my head would explode. Like, okay, the minus sign means it's here. This one also goes to the minus sign, but this one, and if you look at the breadboard now, like I would never lay it out that way because I have legs going over here and over there, and there was no order to it. There's no intention behind it. But probably 3 or 4 hours, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to plug the guitar into it. It won't work, and I'll throw it away. And I got the guitar unplugged in. It's like, it's not going to work because I had no confidence in it. I spent all day. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Plugged in. It's like, turn it on. Like, I'm like, wait a minute. I was like, it sounded like a fuzz face, and it sounded great. And then I'm like, oh, it works. And so was my gateway drug. And then I went, okay, it works. What if I change this part? Nick always said, doesn't matter what caps you use, the green ones or the orange ones, they all sound the same. Let me try it for myself. He was wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, it completely changes the landscape, If you're like really playing it and going off the feel of it and stuff. And so that was what launched it. And then I started messing around a little bit, and then I started contributing pedals to the lineup, and sort of not intentional by him or me. At some point, I became the face of the company, even when he was around.
You did. Yeah.
And I don't know if there's any other example in the industry of that happening, because it's usually you got Robert Keeley. Robert Keeley wasn't working for Joe Blow, and then all of a sudden he became, it's like, or whoever,
I think the guy from Men's Warehouse was not the actual president of Men's Warehouse.
Okay, there's some exceptions to
That's the only thing I can think of. You're gonna like the way you look, though. I mean,
You're gonna like the way you look.
Yeah.
Was he the same guy as the hair transplant guy? No.
I don't know.
Well, sorry.
But I mean, like, again, I think this comment is really good. When you happen to learn the cage system and it just clicked, that's what happens whenever I play anything of Howard's designs. And I think,
rad. That's cool.
And I think like that is kind of for me, it goes back to the ear thing. Like, I trust you to breadboard the shit out of something and go with whatever sounds good to you, because you are a guitar player who I resonate with,
Well, that's
like
where I get to the feel thing. Like, if
Yeah.
you're an engineer, you're like, I don't even own an oscilloscope or any frequency analyzer or anything like that. And I keep thinking I should get one, but I've always
still
just
don't.
like, when I started KCFX, like that was on my list, like buy scope, and like I don't have a place to put it. But it's just like I have the guitar on, and I got certain things that I always have to do. Right? It's like you like have to mute the string, like, and you thump it through the circuit, and you're like, what is it doing? Is it flattened out? Is it too thin? And it's like I always think of it like a basketball. Like, if you get a perfect basketball inflated to the right, amount of, for that just sweet spot, and you got a really good wood court. I'm not a basketball player, but it's a good.
Yeah, I can get all that, and I'll still miss.
But you dribble, and it has a satisfying thunk, 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 right?
Yeah.
And or you overinflate it, and it's just like, or you underinflate it, obviously, or you get it inflated perfectly, but you take it out in the lawn and you try to dribble it, which is like a lot of shitty fuzz circuits sound like that, right? Where it's just like running through the mud.
Yeah.
Right.
And so for me, it's like, there's like all these things I do. It's like one of the, you got to hit the D. I'm not tuned to, I don't know what that's tuned to. Like, you hit an open D chord at some point in the circuit, and it rings, and do the harmonics fight each other, or do you get this sort of blooming effect where, not to steal a phrase, but do the harmonics percolate, without being
Right,
that
right.
Yeah,
circuit?
careful, because they're pretty
Whoa.
litigious.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Same thing. This pedal I'm working on is the fuzz, and I got everything squared away. I wanted a little more gain out of the input stage, so I bumped up the first stage to like 18 volts. Everything else the same. I don't know what changed yet, because I haven't thrown it on a scope or anything, but I went to play it today, and it just sounded a little off to me. And then the same thing, I do like a dynamic pluck, and there's this like bias sag where it's just like, it like like drops, and I'm like, God damn it, what now? Like,
and I've experienced that along the way where you're like, okay, that's not it,
Yeah, that's not the right thing.
And so you keep, and sometimes it's frustrating. Like, sometimes you hit it really quick, and sometimes you keep trying things.
Yeah.
And what's really weird is, like, I always end up with these schematics. I look at it, and it's like, it looks obvious. I'm looking at it now. It's like, it's obvious. Like, and I don't know if it's Steve Jobs or someone like that, but they're like, you want a product or a creative thing to look obvious when you witness it.
Where it's like, why didn't I think of that? Yeah.
But getting to obvious is not obvious.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you take a Stratocaster, that just seems obvious to us now, right? It's like, it was like, there was no version 2 Stratocaster. Like, he just 54, he started making them. It's like, okay, well, there it is.
I was talking with Josh Scott about that last weekend. about the Benson fuzz and how like just a little heater, you just a little heater for the transistors.
Yeah.
How fucking obvious. Like, and Josh Strott was talking about how jealous he is of that pedal because he's like, why didn't anybody think of that for 60 years?
Yeah, because I remember years
doesn't seem
ago,
like that.
Analog Mike had posted on some forum like, "Oh yeah, we should come up with like a way, like a air conditioning unit system for a pedal to keep the
Right.
transistors cool."
Right.
And Chris went, "Well, it's kind of easier just to make it warm."
Flip that. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
So, you're at Caliban. You designed what I think are a lot of the seminal products in their line. You part ways, and you launched Kittycaster.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
And tell us about Kittycaster.
Well, you know, it wasn't, you know, the intention wasn't like, oh, I want to like leave and do something different. It was, you know, the whole situation sort of presented itself as that's what happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we won't get into that too much, but since I was starting over, I'm like, well, starting over, I always wanted to have a custom enclosure because I got tired of the Hammond basic enclosures. You have a custom enclosure too, don't you, Charles? Or what do you use?
It's like the Gorva thing. Yeah, the
Oh, you use
Gorva.
the Gorvas because they have
yeah.
nice curves.
They're cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
those are nice.
I like the pillow top kind of thing. Yeah.
And maybe in hindsight, I should have went your route because so I really want to have a
No.
custom.
They're expensive.
Like folded.
Bent metal's a way to go,
It's so
dude.
cool.
Yeah,
So-
it's rad.
So I wanted to do a custom enclosure, but I didn't like have it in my mind exactly what it's going to look like. I just wanted it to be not your basic Hammond box, your Phase 90
Yeah.
type format, which, you know, is like the whole boutique industry is the basic Phase 90
Yeah.
style box. And it's served a lot of folks, you know, to this day still. But, you know, and there was challenges to build, and I wanted to use larger through-hole axial parts. And I was like, well, you know, I've already had experience trying to get those to fit in there. And it's like, there's no way
Yeah.
to fit it. And it's just a bitch to build because you got to
Yeah.
you shove it in there in the pots and you can't get at it. And, you know, so you end up with this where it's like, okay.
Yeah. I love that yours is on a slant too. Like that's so nice for just yeah.
So I bought a 3D printer. It was right in the beginning of 2020, right before COVID hit. And didn't know that was a great call because I'd be stuck in the house for a year and a half. Hey, I got my 2 cats and my 3D printer, you know, and I can have Mauser, you know, deliver parts to the door. And so I learned how to do simple 3D printing. And, but like I said, I still didn't have the shape or anything yet. I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm not a mechanical engineer. I draw stick figures, you know, I can't even draw things. But I want to make a pedal. And so I learned the 3D printer. So I got some stuff here. So this is the first thing I did.
Yeah, let's see that.
Oh, sick.
Great
And-
groovy wizard.
And all it is just a sheet, you know, with some knob holes in it, which I mounted
yeah.
some pots and a foot switch tube. And it was just me learning how to 3D print and do some basic CAD stuff. I'm like, okay, well, this was a big day when I did this.
I
Hell
bet.
Kinda-
CAD sucks.
It feels good. It feels good to see something you designed from nothing and then it's like then it's there, you know?
Yeah, and I never, you know, the 3D printing thing was new to me, and it's like, oh, okay. And then, see, I had that, and that was just the beginning. I'm like, okay, and that's like a 3:4 aspect ratio, because that's like the big thing was like, what aspect ratio does it have to be, right? And
Right.
And so then the next stage of the evolution was, okay, I got
Oh, here we go.
So this is the beginnings of the wedge enclosure, right? Because
Yeah.
I decided I wanted the wedge because it's ergonomic. It's low
Yeah,
to
it's
the
cool.
foot switch. Kind of harkens back to the fuzzes, you know, of 60s and 70s. And,
Oh, yeah.
So I did this on the 3D printer. It's like kind of the next evolution of it. And even says 3x4 there because I have a whole series of these, like 3x4, 2x3, and et cetera, et cetera. Just like I have a box full of these. And at some point, I got these hole alignments. Then I ordered circuit boards to try to fit them. And that's where the engineering really comes in. You have to get a circuit board that fits through the holes.
Make it fit. Yeah.
It seems obvious, but it's like
it's so funny how much work goes into that little detail that nobody appreciates. But I see stuff.
I wouldn't even
job
think about
making
it.
that whole
I wouldn't even think about that.
Yeah,
I would not even think about lining
it's
up the
fucking
hole.
crazy.
you have to design a circuit board and get it to fit in here.
Yeah,
because
I wouldn't even think about that.
it's
you
a
see
lot.
that it just plugs in, right? And so that's like made my brain hurt because you have to account for the clearances and like you're dealing with 0.1 millimeter shifts, and so that's where you put the bong down. Like, okay, I gotta like get serious with this, and then just like
Where's
you do
the
this
bong
thing.
right now?
So you do this, so you can get back to just the more perceptual sonic. This was very linear math measurement stuff. Anyway, and then it got to the point where we finally like had the two pieces, and this is the final form, and so this is the bent metal spec, but printed on 3D printer. And I actually had a buddy of mine, Ryan, do the rendering for me.
Yeah, that's cool.
But this aspect ratio, by the way. So what did you like? I had 3x4 and all these different things. What did you land on, Howard? It was a golden rectangle.
Oh, damn.
Dude, I go for that a lot. I go for the golden rectangle a lot.
Well, I was like looking up design YouTubes. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. It's like, I don't know how to design anything. It's like, where do I put the holes for the pots? They gotta look good, but is it just random? Because some pedals I've seen, they look random. Like I'll drill a hole over here and put the switch over here and put the graphics, like I wanted it to look where like it had to be there and nowhere else, right?
Dude. The golden ratio is great. The Egyptians had it right with the pyramids. Like,
oh man, and I deep dived into all that.
You bring up the Egyptians the second that Blues Lawyer meme shows up. Oh man.
Hey Howard,
that too. How's it going, Eddie?
Good man, good. It's nice to see you, like
Good
face
to
to
see
face. It's been a long time.
we were talking
I know.
about Egyptians.
Oh,
Yeah,
That
they enslaved.
Blue Flare and Mighty. He was
enslaved
my
Jewish
DM
people.
buddy through COVID. So
He was,
sweet.
he was everybody's DM buddy through
oh,
COVID.
you were
Kind of a
cheating on
damn
me.
whore.
I'm such a slut.
You were cheating on me. Like, you said you were going to the bathroom. You were just DMing someone else.
I started out talking to Ryan, then I went out for a cigarette, and I started talking to you, and then I went out for a cigarette, and I started. So what about?
So now he's addicted to cigarettes.
The golden ratio
Yeah. So
with all the pyramids and stuff. Yeah.
these design videos, they kept mentioning golden ratios and Fibonacci and stuff like that, and so I went, I don't know, what if I just made the pedal the golden ratio aspect ratio, and I measured every pedal that have around here. To my knowledge, this is the first golden ratio aspect ratio pedal. Not sure if that's true or not, but like if you look at like the Phase 90 one, that's not. It looks like almost, but it's not. It's a little bit narrower.
I don't even know if I'd know the golden ratio if I saw it.
I think 16:9.
Yeah.
Like a TV.
Okay.
They make TVs and screens. That's very intentional that they make screens like 16:9. Yeah.
I mean, you know the thing, right? So if you take you take a golden rectangle, you make a square. What's left is a golden rectangle.
Yeah.
And you take that golden rectangle and take a square. What's left is another, and it keeps going.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
right there, and
It's the most. They say it's the most visually pleasing shape to the human eye.
Yeah, and if you look at, I have a golden ratio caliper, and like if you do like here, and different, proportions of your body, they're golden ratios. So
Yeah.
it's everywhere. And besides the Nautilus shell, there's obvious things, and it shows up in, pine cones and female body and
Dude.
everything, space. And then,
Yeah.
of course, we're talking about the pyramids, and that was like
Yeah.
coded
Yeah.
in there, which is really.
Benny and
I
I are
would do a whole
not. Benny and
podcast
I are
on that.
not stoned yet. We feel it.
My dick
Right.
is the golden
Dude.
ratio.
I just made a golden ratio in my pants.
It's taking a turn.
Charles, this is a family program.
Sorry, I had
not.
to.
It's not.
No, it's very much not.
It's all good.
So, how many pedals do we have on the Kittycaster roster at this point?
We got 3 at the moment.
Okay.
They got the trim driver and hang on a sec.
All right. We'll look at Howard's studio. Well,
Whoa.
Hell yeah.
I'm just gonna go DM somebody else for a minute here.
I like that screensaver.
And the Groovy Wizard, which is, I call it a fuzz driver because it's a fuzz, but it kind of acts like an overdrive, you know. And this is the latest one we came up with, which is the mohair distortion. And story on this is like, I'm not a fan of big muffs, never have been. And I sat down and like, could I come up with a version of one that I liked? And so that was my mission statement on this one. It was like,
That's cool.
I play a lot of big muffs, and they're like always fun to play for like 5 minutes, and after a while you're like, yeah, but what am I gonna do with the thing? It's like there's no attack on it, and you get lost in the mix. And
yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with it. If I'm playing by myself, there is nothing more satisfying. With the second you go into a band, you're like, where did I go?
See, and that was the problem I tried to solve with this. And so just the voicing of the muff side, and then there's got a boost circuit. And the whole reasoning with that is like, okay, you know, because I could have, and I, you know, have you explored it yet, Charles?
The big muff, I'm getting into it. I think I'm going to do something with JFETs because I'm in love with JFETs right now. So I'd love to do some kind of iteration of it because same thing. Big muffs are fun, but I just hear all the problems.
Does the boost have that mid hump that like?
Well, that's what I was going to explain.
Okay.
When I did mine, like there's, you know, and people have done that. You know, it's like, okay, we'll change a tone stack, or we'll get rid of the tone stack. We'll put a Marshall tone stack. We'll change a front end, you know, change a coupling cap. There's so much you can do with it. And then I did all that stuff. I spent a few months on the breadboard. Like, okay, let me just train. No, you know what? I want it to actually have the muffiness there without the problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so the muffy side of it, I just made more open, different clipping, and just. That's the thing about big muffs. They're so crushed.
Yeah, they're
like
very compressed.
Like you take a brick wall limiter and you just have it so it's not moving. It's just like,
yeah.
Oh, it's loud, dude. Yeah, well, our record would be great. And
so you just do a lot more headroom between the stages.
Yeah, just more headroom and the power filtering to kind of give it the bounce. And so it still has the traditional tone stack, and so there's a little bit of a scoop there. Because that's kind of the character. I love that
tone stack. I love that tone stack. A lot of people talk crap about it. I actually use that tone stack. My Micronaut, and that's it. My Micronaut, it's a modified version because it's not the same response. It's a lot more balanced, but I love that.
But
that whole
same high pass, low pass.
The tilt, the tilt. I just tuned it for a guitar amp instead of a fuzz pedal, but. But man, I love the way that thing responds and behaves. It's such a good one knob option for shaping a tone.
Yeah, and so I've messed around with it a lot, and I really change the values, like try to make something go somewhere else, and I kind of ended up pretty close to like a ram's head spec on it.
Yeah, those are cool.
But then what I did is like, okay, I got the mid hump, and it sings better, and it's got more clarity in the text, so it's not going to get lost in the mix. But then all of a sudden I had this epiphany one day. I'm like, wait, it got a little hump there. What does a range master do? It's got an upper mid-range. It is an upper mid-range hump. That's all it is. So it's like a puzzle piece. So you turn on the boost, like there's a puzzle piece that fills in.
Yeah, sick.
That little V there. And then I tuned it so that it kind of like, fit the way I thought it should fit. And there is a tone control that you could sort of vary how thick that boost is.
Yeah, that's rad.
But,
that's cool. I gotta hear your stuff. I can't wait. End of the month. I'm gonna check it all out.
But what I ended up with is like as a pedal that like a certain setting that I always jokingly like you can like play Judas Priest riff through. It doesn't sound like a fuzz pedal anymore. It just sounds like an amp in the box.
Yeah, that's sick.
All my dirt pedals end up sounding like amp in the boxes because I try to like dial it in to everything's.
Well, you kind of
even.
designed the best amp in the box pedal that has ever been, right?
Well, I've got a lot of practice in different ones, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the dirty little secret has yet to be topped in my mind.
I'm more of a Royal Albert Hall guy, but you know.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, that's a whole another story about those. But
Yeah, I'm sure.
all I can say to everyone now is like, I put a lot of time into each and every one of those, and it's kind of I don't know if like Charles, if you run into this, but I've done enough now. It's like every time you finish one, like it happened with the mohair last thing we could tell. It's like, this is great. I can't wait to sit down, have quality time with it, write some songs, maybe record, maybe get some guys together. But it's always like, I got my demo done, I got YouTube done, we did some pimping online. I got to move on to the next circuit. And
Yeah,
it's been that
all
way
the time.
It's been that way for 15 years for me now. It's like there's some of these past pedals I did, and we're like, oh, this is great. I can't wait to
Yeah,
spend just as a player, but you never have any time with it.
I know all of my playing is testing shit and evaluating circuits. So it's like even now, like my overdrive, like I've already moved on to the next pedal, but then I see that and I'm like, fuck, I should play that more. Like I should really spend some more time with that. I feel like I haven't even got to enjoy it yet.
So you feel the same struggle,
Yeah.
And like I'm working on other stuff now, and
It's like a neglected child or something.
here's a prototype. This is like a reveal, guys.
Let's see it. Let's see it.
Sick.
Here we go.
Oh, nice.
It's 3D printed, and this is anyway.
Hell yeah.
It's sounding
That's
really
sick.
good.
That's sick. You 3D print the prototype enclosures, man. That got to be helpful. I have a laser. I don't have a 3D printer, but I laser engrave all my boards or face plates to do
I've
prototypes.
seen your work; that it's really clean looking.
Yeah. Thank you.
In fact, I kind of like been going. Maybe that would be a better option because we're having problems right now. Like we have things that get installed because we had to get a new silk screener and powder coater, and now the silk's not adhering; it's flaking off. So we're like it's delaying stuff, and you're at the mercy of outside.
Yeah.
Sourcing is like the biggest woe of any person.
It is.
Who
I
makes-
just had to hold. The only thing we don't do in house is enclosures and cabinets, right? So pedal enclosures, we get them printed from Jacob at F5. He does an awesome job. And then
Are they pre-drilled with the
he machines them.
or machine? That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, he machines them, powders them, and prints them, and then we just put them together here. And then the guitar cabinets, the amp cabinets, I just had to find a new cabinet maker, and it's just like, yeah, that kind of stuff being outsourced, like it's really nice because it reduces the amount of people and stuff I have to do here in my very small shop, but it's such a pain not having my own kind of handle on it for quality control and just for it just opens up a whole basket of problems.
Yeah, for us, just these, I think they're dope, and I think most people do, but it's like it's real expensive.
Yeah,
It's not cheap for us to do because we're not making hundreds of thousands of them, and
yeah, totally.
It's a scale thing, and then we're at the mercy of these lead times and everything else, and we're just a small team trying to,
make cool shit.
You're juggling, just make cool shit, but you're trying to juggle the logistics of supply side, and that's where it like becomes, where you have to struggle to find the joy in it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny, and then you'll get people clapping back, and it's like, well, wait a second, it's just a fuzz. Why is it $300? And it's like, dude, the enclosure alone's like $30-$40. What do you want to do?
Yeah,
But-
I've seen like the TGP people, like I
Oh, don't
did the
They're trolls. TGP trolls.
yeah, they do the bill of materials like I source these parts and it's only like $16 in parts. It's like
Did they really do that? They pulled up a BOM on your shit.
when they would like just reverse engineer it and go shopping for the parts and
Yeah.
then figure out how much it costs, and they would bust the boutique guy that's selling them for $200-$300. Like, yeah, but you're not the equipment and your R&D and paying your employees and trying to, it's
A lot of people don't know what running a business means.
yeah.
Like, I think that's just what it comes down to. It's
see,
like,
to me this
I don't.
is to me we don't really sell this. We sell an idea, right?
Right.
You're selling an
Yeah.
idea that manifests itself in hardware, but you're really trying to sell the idea, and it takes a lot to present that idea.
For
Yeah.
sure.
I was actually
No.
talking with Eli from Two Rock about this recently, and we were talking about people online complaining about stuff. He was mentioning this one part that he uses where nothing else worked except like coax cable from Home Depot, and that's what solved this noise issue. That's what he used. It took him 6 months to figure it out, and he used whatever wire and shielding, and then he landed on this 35-cent part from Home Depot, and it was like, cool, nailed it. And then he got shit online. Man, I just paid $4,000, $5,000 for this amp. You'd think something better would be inside. And it's like, dude, you don't realize that you're paying for the 6 months that it took to figure that out.
Well, there are Radio Shack parts and dumbles, dude. I mean, like,
it doesn't matter how.
Yeah, but Radio Shack is
expensive
Mojo
it's
now because you
whatever-
can't go to Radio Shack and buy resistors
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly.
But yeah, it's not always the most expensive part. It's just what works best for that idea or that.
Wait, are you
circuit or
telling me you don't
whatever.
know about Home Depot coax cable? You just yourself finding out?
Yeah,
Did you look here? That's all it is. It's like-
that's all it is.
I do want to note that this is probably the first non-asshole comment that Jared Harper has ever left. On his channel. I spend more money on boutique shit because I like the people. The product usually follows the quality of the person.
There
And,
you go.
Oh
Okay.
and
shit!
yeah, man. I think. Whoa. I don't know what I'm doing here now. There we go. Howard, I think you embody that 100%, which is
Keep
why
getting
I
those comments over there.
Yeah, Howard.
I don't have my
Howard
glasses on. It's like there's comments.
which is why I really wanted to have you on the show. And why I hold you in such high regard. I think the quality of the person you are matches the quality of the gear that you produce. I trust your ear. I trust you implicitly with. I've never played a Howard Gee pedal that didn't make me feel something.
Wow.
And so,
Thank you.
That
Yeah.
rules.
That means a lot, and it's great hanging out with you guys because
I can't wait. I can't wait to play your stuff.
I want to echo that. I mean, some of your designs. I mean, they're just like permanently on my board.
Yeah.
It's there.
yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
You know, and they're inspiring. That's like they're inspiring because it's you just
I mean, just getting that
Yeah,
feedback
yes.
from you guys gets me through another day. Because I mean, you were commenting right in the pre, like, wait, are you in the same room that from that one video? Like, yep, the talisman video is right over
I
here.
remember it. I remember all of those videos. I watched them all
I did.
religiously.
I did
That's
too. I remember when I was in the first time, like again, the Royal Albert
So you
Hall
haven't
video.
seen the chain and shackle on my ankle. I haven't left here.
It's not even his real house. The studio set.
Right?
Yeah.
Just a green screen.
Oh, it's
man.
been green screen for years now. Yeah. No, that means a lot, and it because I guess what I'm trying to say is like you it's for me it's really like been a solitary effort, where
Yeah.
you spend a lot of like alone time with your cats, and I mean I was thinking yesterday like most of the era that we were talking about before Kittycaster was like me kind of sitting around the same spot I'm sitting now.
Yeah.
I reconfigure it depending on what I'm doing. Or I'm doing a shoot, or I'm just playing guitar, or if I'm breadboarding. Same like spot, you know.
Yeah.
I don't have like a lab room, you know, with all the parts trays.
Right.
I get a little Kia thing, a little table, and I bring that out. Like, okay, now I'm breadboarding.
Yeah.
But you know, I remember just for years, like I'd be sitting there like working on one of those pedals we were talking about, and looking out to the slider door before out there to see if my Tomcat buddy was going to show up or not. It's like, okay, you're back. I'll get up and let him in and get back to it, and so it's good to to hear from y'all.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you taking the time to be on with us. And I really wanted this to happen, so I'm really glad that it did. And
by the way, we have a text message chain going. He really wanted it to happen.
It's cool. I'm glad I made it.
There's Ryan.
I almost didn't make it in, but I'm glad. This was an awesome talk. So
I'm sorry I made it so late.
I think Charles and Howard should just have their own talk. Like
they should. They can talk about resistors and transistors and value.
Not that I don't want to be part of it, but I think that
They may get my glasses and pocket protector.
Right.
Hey,
right.
Yeah.
We'll nerd out in Portland at the end of the month.
Yeah, I'm super jealous. I'm not going to be there.
Yeah.
This is like my first live stream, by the way. So it's actually kind of cool. I like to, if you had me on again, I would love to just
yeah.
Even just to hang out and not be the
like
focal point or whatever.
yeah. You
I'll
say
do like
that.
Benny there. I'll just be working while everyone's chatting. You know. Like,
yeah, that's one of those be careful what you wish for things.
Yeah, dude.
Because,
sorry, it's gonna be loud here. You guys keep talking. I got Hunt Marshall test coming up here.
That's what we do every week. Like normally there's 6 or 7 of us, and just we'll be bullshitting, and whoever has something to chime in with, just blurt it out.
Are you on a lot, Charles?
Yeah.
Yeah, Charles and
I know Eddie.
Eddie's
Mr.
pretty
Blues.
regular.
Benny's been a few
Benny
now.
comes on when he doesn't burn his feet with tea.
Yeah.
So I actually haven't. I don't really watch like gear content myself.
No.
You know.
I
I watch a couple. I skipped through some of these
Why, you make
in the
content?
past just to see what your vibe was about, and I was like, okay, this is cool.
You know what's funny is we've gone through these, and there have been times where we have gone and not talked about music whatsoever, or not talked about gear whatsoever. And for me, it's just the way I view it is
What do you talk about?
whatever. I kind of look.
There's certain topics that are very like.
We don't,
politics, right,
we're not going to talk about Trump or anything like that. But
Well, the first one back, we talked about Mike Fuller a lot.
we did. Holy cow,
I
we
think
did.
almost.
There's a reputation there.
Yeah.
For me, the idea, and we all bring in different people, and the idea is that it's kind of like a dinner party, or like a party with drinks, and somebody brings in someone who they think everybody would really like to meet, and we do that, and that's and wherever it goes is where it goes, and sometimes it's amazing, and sometimes it's an absolute tire fire, but it is what it is, and usually, like all of these people, Eddie and Benny and Charles were guests. And then we were like, we had a really good chemistry, and you should be part of that table.
So it's kind of like Cheers, and these are you guys.
It
are
is.
regulars,
It
you know.
is.
There you go.
It's like Cheers meets Hotel California.
Ryan, post the Michael Page comment.
We can never leave.
That's where we should stream from.
We should.
Taco Bell.
That's where the whole thing started. The whole thing started from a Taco Bell discussion over text message that grouped in a bunch of people.
I've already made a delay.
Which
So I need to make another one.
Yeah, you did. You made one of the best delays.
Because I don't want you to. No one buy my old one. Just
Yeah,
wait for the
you made one of the best delays on the market, my friend, and it's super cool to have you. So I thank you guys for your time, Eddie, Charles, Benny. Thank you guys for being here, especially you, Howard. I really
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
for having me.
Thank you for this time, and we are out.